Thank you very much. Good evening, all who are with us, and I want to acknowledge in our presence, now that the country is reopening, our activists from Cora Paradise, Tacarigua. Can we give them a round of applause? And of course, our two chairpersons today, Councillor Prakash, and our activist, former candidate, Nabila. Can we welcome them and thank them? And indeed, let us thank all the speakers who came before me. MP Arnold Ram, where are you? Well done. MP Rushton Pare, well done. MP Dr. Rushton Bodo. Thank you all very much, Team UNC. I am positive that we can do what is needed to put our country back on the path to development and prosperity for all. But before I go into the points I have here, and there's so many, as Dr. Bodo and the other speakers said, there's so many issues. And so we will try to deal with some of them as best as we can in the limited time that we have. I want to talk a little about the massive illegal spying and monitoring of people's phones illegally. I want to talk a little about the RJs and their funding of P&M lawyers, as Dr. Bodo mentioned, to the tune of about $37 million. I want to talk a bit about a fellow by the name of Foster Cummins and Pickle. I spoke a bit about it last week, and today I have more to share with you. I want to look a bit about the food prices, which was mentioned previously by one of our speakers, I think Mr. MP Rushton Pare, and about the wage freeze and so many others, as many as points as I can get to this evening. But I want to bring greetings to our Muslim brothers and sisters who have just started the holy month of Ramadan, and I say to them, Ramadan Mubarak, brothers and sisters of our Muslim faith. May this month of fasting and reflection bring you closer to Allah. And it is very noteworthy that at this time, we're in a very divine season, a very holy season, because whilst we are into the month of Ramadan now, we are also still into the Lenten season, and for the Christian community and for the Hindu community, Navratri at this time. So it's a very special time for us in Trinidad and Tobago, and of course, sending a divine message to all of us around the world. So to greetings to all these various communities, remember that we are all children of God. Now, some time ago, I had warned you all about the Rowley government acquiring the Israeli software Pegasus program to hack into citizens' WhatsApp communications and other communications. Tonight, I can confirm that government did in fact acquire this software, and they have been illegally spying on citizens, various social media platforms, WhatsApps, emails, and so on. A whistleblower has provided me with information regarding this widespread electronic spying. I've also been provided with names of persons who are being spied upon. However, we have been alerting persons privately because of safety concerns. The list of persons being spied on include members of the media, reporters and editors, members of the judiciary, senior judiciary and magistrates, state agencies spying on their own board appointees, trade unions, members of government, yes, they are spying on their own MPs and senators, and of course, they must be spying on the opposition. We know that. It's not the first time. Also being illegally monitored are members of the business community, from the chambers of commerce, lawyers associated both with the UNC and the PNM, and of course persons in other political parties. They are also accessing the media, the emails and text messages for these persons and storing it. So remember, every email message in all folders within these persons' email accounts, they have been accessing them and storing them. I would ask you to delete it. They access your WhatsApp by sending you a message, and when you click on it, the software infects your phone. They can read your WhatsApp messages in real time, as you are sending and receiving them. And therefore, I am advising all of you, always delete your WhatsApp messages. Delete them. Once you're done, delete. So they can catch it in real time and, of course, store it. But if you delete as you go along, it gives you a bit more safety. This is being done with the assistance of police officers. I know there are many great, good police officers, but we know that some officers who are closely affiliated with certain high members of government, they are assisted in this task. Some of these officers were handpicked and placed into positions to conduct this illegal spying. In one instance, a police constable, who is a friend with a minister, has been put to monitor WhatsApp messages, a police constable. When we passed the interception law in this country, we made it very clear that only those of a certain rank would be able to intercept, and only then after a proper procedure was carried out. But all of this, I'm told, is happening now. They're spying on WhatsApp message of their own members. Anyone they think may be a threat to Rowley's leadership is also being spied upon. They're also monitoring the phones of the spouses of certain PNM persons. Certain members of this government are suffering from paranoia, and they are desperate to find anyone they believe are against them. Faris Arawi has already become a victim of this illegal monitoring of WhatsApp messages, and there are others from within the government who may become future victims of this illegal activity. Now, many tell us Rowley does not have control of his MPs due to the infighting within the PNM, and now the government has resorted to these Gestapo tactics to cling to power. It is clear we are in a dictatorship when judicial officers, business people, trade unions, political persons, political parties, not associated with criminal activity, but that they're being illegally spied upon because of the paranoia of this government. We need answers on this illegal spying and other matters. But Rowley and his government, you know what? They have not convened Parliament yet again. Why is this? We are not on vacation. Why are they holding back the Parliament and not calling the Parliament? Because we have questions to ask. These questions must be placed on the record. The answers must be put on the record. That is what Parliament is there for. But this government feels that this is a dictatorship where they can run the country without accounting to your representatives in the Parliament. And so I call upon government to tell us why. Why are you failing to call the Parliament time and time again? Last week, this week again, we're not on Easter vacation. There is no Easter recess for the Parliament. That is the place where you have to account. Why are you hiding from the Parliament? Why are you failing to answer the questions? You know, last week I talked about Foster Commons. What is happening with state lands in this country? Last Monday, I raised with you matters involving land grabbing. I had asked several questions in relation to Minister Foster Cummins and a piece of land in Exchange, Couva. Foster Cummins, a director and shareholder of a company known as PICAL Services Limited. Tonight, I wish to remind you of the questions I asked last Monday. Are there any vehicles belonging to PICAL Services Limited parked up on this piece of state land? Is PICAL Services Limited the owner or tenant of that piece of state land? Who currently occupies and manages the building owned by Caroni 1975 Limited, which is on that piece of state land? Does PICAL Services Limited have any interest in the land and the building? Again, Foster, do you know anything about this? Now, I received no answers yet. No answers about this. I saw WPC Camille Robinson-Regis attempting to give a very feeble response to the questions I asked last Monday. Well, Madam Credit Card Camille, respectfully, I didn't ask you anything. I think you have some questions for First Citizens Bank concerning yourself, answering questions. What about that $143,800 cash in account number 260-00990-2731, about which you were caught giving misinformation? That's what you should answer. and let Foster answer his own business. We still want to know the truth, Camille, so stop hiding the truth. The TTPS needs to know your answers to that. So tonight, you said you wanted evidence, Prime Minister. Tonight we'll show you some of the evidence. I want to show you some pictures and some videos of the piece of land there that I'm speaking about at Couva Exchange. Exchange Village, is it? Couva. And I'm told today there's another piece of land we have to ask Foster about, which is at Jerningham Junction. Yes, Jerningham Junction. We'll get more details about another piece of state land which seems to have some involvement with Mr. Foster coming. So let's look at the video. Video 1 is going to show us a wall. So if our team can put it up, please. Remember I told you a large concrete wall was constructed so the public is blocked off from seeing inside of the compound. This is the video of that large wall. Can you see it? Are you seeing it? Yes? That's the wall. Then go to video 2 now, inside the compound, behind that wall. Let's look and see what is behind the wall. I keep telling you, Foster, you could run, but you cannot hide. So what we are seeing there in this video, trucks parked up inside that compound on the state land. And the writing on the trucks is Pical Services Limited, a company of which Foster was a director. I asked Foster, are these trucks owned by Pical Services Limited? I asked Foster comments, what are these trucks doing parked up in these Gary lands? What are the trucks doing there? Is Pical Services the owner of that piece of land? And now we have photographs showing the trucks and backhoe on the compound. Let's look at it. Do we have those photographs showing the trucks and the backhoe on the compound behind that wall? Okay, I think you may have to go back to the one before, perhaps. There we are. Can you see them? The trucks parked up inside the compound there. Are you seeing them? Yes. Like you all am. When you're watching, you can't speak. Look at the backhoe. All parked up in there. I want to turn now to another photograph. This is photograph number 7. What this photograph shows is a black Range Rover PDS 12. PDS 12. Black Range Rover. PDS 12. Foster, is that your Range Rover? Is that the one you use and come to Parliament every time we have Parliament? Tell us, is that your vehicle? And why is it parked up behind that wall on that compound? Tell us why. Do you own the land? Are you a tenant of that land? These are state lands. What were you doing parked up on that compound? What's the vehicle doing there? What is it doing on that compound? Tonight I call again for answers on what business does Pical Services and Foster Cummins have with that piece of land belonging to Caroni at Exchange in Couva. Corruption? Well, let's find out. Give us the answers. Don't come to tell me mind my business, because this is my business. This is the people's business. This is the people's business. We are closing in on you, Foster. We are giving you a chance to come clean. In addition to Foster's $100 million dealings with ADC, RDC, UDCOT, Carry Lands and so on, he also has questions to answer regarding the DSS investigations. You all remember that? DSS. Did you work with the DSS in the 2020 general elections to induce voters? Was your life threatened by the same persons who worked with you to get votes in that 2020 election after they lost all their money to DSS? Do you not have to walk with security in your own constituency? Do you have to walk with security in your own constituency because you are afraid? And talking about this land and Pical and Foster, let's talk about another set of land grabbing. Prime Minister says he doesn't have it, he wants evidence. Well, we'll give him the evidence. We'll show him, as I just did, the photographs. So let's move on and talk about what is really happening. Clarence Rambarat, They fired Minister of Agriculture. He said he'd go in Canada to stay with his family and take care of family and goodbye, everybody. Now being told he's coming back to head something yet to be formed, a single point land management authority. Serious business, you know. You just fired him and he cry and say you have to go look after wife and children. And you're bringing him back. Why? Are you bringing him back to keep him from talking? Are you bringing him back to give him a bigger salary? Because if you're giving him this big job as what? Point Land Management Authority. Are you going to be paying him more? We'll wait and see. I am told Clarence did not resign. He was fired. And don't feel that he was a whistleblower. He was not. He tried to say he sent all this thing to the police and so on. 7 years you're sitting down there, nothing came of it. Now you want to play that you whistleblower. He's not a whistleblower. The government was answered about a former minister whose brother has been collecting money to sort out documents regarding state lands. Check it out. Check it out and I'll call names. If you do not come clean, I will provide you the evidence next week. The government was answered about persons who paid this brother to get their land documents. Paying money under the counter to get land documents. The government was answered why state technocrats who refused to do the former minister's bidding were harassed and threatened. I want to ask about the lands that a minister illegally gave to friends, family, financiers, and supporters, and now they cannot get their documents, and they are harassing state officials because they had paid their monies and said, yes, you're getting the lands and so on. I want to ask about the large amounts of timber that has been given out by this minister on state lands. Timber. Now, the state land is land, but the timber is also a valuable asset on state lands, yes. What about that? What about the lands in the river Wind Belt Forest Reserve? Russian, you know that place? River Wind Belt Forest Reserve, Glod Road, Tableland Forest Reserve that have been cleared. Reserve lands being cleared, state lands. What about the estate timber theft all hours of the weekend and the night in citrus timber? All of a sudden, Mr. Rambarat no longer misses his family in Canada. I mean, really. He's not missing them again. He's ready to come back. Did he even ever leave Trinidad? Are these the issues that he's come back to investigate? Rowley fired a man and hired him back after 2 weeks in another position, but for what purpose, really? What he couldn't solve as minister, you already expect him to solve now, under whatever job they want to give him. So now we would have 3 ministers in agriculture and Clarence Rambarat in some kind of imaginary job. The planned consolidation of all power over land matters into the hands of one person, on the face of it, sounds like a recipe for the abuse of rights and privileges of citizens in land matters. Is this meant to cover up corrupt dealings? And more important, are you going to put in the hands of an ex-minister this state land management authority and place it under the office of the Prime Minister? Where is the transparency? Where will be the checks and balances? Is that you're going to just share out land? Share out to friends and family and financiers as you try to shore up your failing competence and integrity in governance. This is because under this government, they have been centralizing all control where it comes to land. The promised $500 million for farmers was locked away in the consolidated fund, with the Minister of Finance acting as a miserly shopkeeper with these public funds and never gave it to the farmers. Someone needs to send this government a memo that running a country is not like running a parlor. There are built-in checks and balances and separate institutions in place to regulate conduct and behavior. The administration of the lands of the people of Trinidad and Tobago is no exception. And therefore, is it that Rambarat is being returned to help cover up corruption? I'm asking. Tell us what you're coming back here for. and why you have stopped suddenly missing your own family. I think people need to know that. All of this just happened too quickly. So we move along on other matters. You would have seen in newspapers over the weekend, we see government in power, and we see the $37 million in legal fees. $37 million. When we were in government, every Monday PNM filing questions in Parliament about legal fees. And we answered them, we were not afraid. Would you believe that now when we ask the very same questions of the PNM, the response is they want a year to consult lawyers, to get consent from lawyers, before they could tell you through the Parliament how much money they are paying to their high-priced lawyers. Arawi said he had a duty to inform and consult these lawyers under the Freedom of Information Act. That is total nonsense and madness. But we always know that fellow was never a bright lawyer. He was always a dunce. We always knew that. So he wants to consult on the FIA. A question in Parliament is not a question under the Freedom of Information Act. You cannot invoke the checks and balances in the Freedom of Information Act for questions filed in Parliament. That is the place to account to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. That's where you have to account. So nonsense. Nonsense. This is the first time in our political history that a government is using such ridiculous delay tactics to avoid providing information regarding the expenditure of public funds. Civic-minded people, like activists, and I call him a legal luminary, Ravi Balgobin Maharaj. He's a one-man CIA and FBI and everything all wrapped up into one. And our very own senior counsel, Anand Ramlogan, once again, dealt the PNM a very serious blow. You would have seen, I told you just now, the pages of the newspaper where they over $37 million spent on legal fees. And guess to do what? To defend claims brought by medical negligence victims. Huh? Medical negligence in the health sector. No money to help the people, as Dr. Bodo told us earlier, but you spend $37 million to pay whom? Your lawyers. Instead of settling these matters, they have created a feeding frenzy for PNM lawyers. That list includes prominent names, and one of them is the former AG's Al-Rawi law firm. His law firm, lawyers from his law firm. The current Attorney General, Reginald Amor, millions of dollars. Kerwin Gasser, you know who is that? Husband of the President of the Senate. Margaret Hines, name familiar? Wife of the Minister of National Security. Ravindra Nanga, Chairman of WASA. I saw Anil and the others in Parliament recently in the Joint Select Committee questioning Mr. Nanga about WASA issues. This man is on the list. Chairman collecting his money as chairman of WASA and then collecting fees, lawyers' fees. Former member of the Police Service Commission, Roger Kewal Singh, you remember that name? Michael Kwamina, the personal lawyer of whom? Keith Rowley, chairman of Heritage Petroleum. These are some of the lawyers that the PNM has been feeding with its $37 million. At the heart of the scandal is a man called Faris Al-Rawi, who was suddenly fired as AG, no explanation. Imagine this, huh? Imagine this. Al-Rawi was responsible for selecting the lawyers for the RHAs. Not the RHA, but Faris Al-Rawi. He would dictate to the RHA whom they should hire, and of course, a couple of names stand out. Now, one name really is surprising to me. I've been a lawyer for enough years, many years. I've never seen or heard this name. A person by the name of Charles Lowe. Anybody heard that name as a lawyer? Charles Lowe. Many of us search the internet and the Google, you can't even find a picture of this person, Charles Lowe. Who is he? What experience he has in dealing with medical negligence cases? What criteria did they use to hire this man? And you know how much they paid him? $9 million. $9 million. when poor people cannot get medicine from the hospital pharmacy, cannot get anything through the CDAP. $9 million, a man who has no track record in dealing with medical negligence cases. And of course, you can't find him anywhere on the internet, like he's a ghost behind a post. I don't know. We looked, several of us looked. We have not been able. So, Mr. Charles Law, we would love to see you. So, put up a post or something so we'll know who and what you are and what are your qualifications. Mr. Law, what is your relationship? Mr. Charles Law, you have received 41 briefs. 41. And paid what? $9 million. Is it true that you were part of law chambers? And if so, did you disclose this to the RHA when you were advising them to hire? Is it true that you were in chambers, in Farris's chambers before, and set up your own little business on the side and collecting briefs? I'm asking you, because we can't find you anywhere except in the Freedom of Information application file seeking information about these RHA fees. And of course, the one and only Roger Kewal Singh. At the Southwest Regional Health Authority, Al-Rawi gave his friend Roger Kewal Singh over $3.8 million in briefs. $3.8 million, you know. Well, we'll talk about the portion in a moment. Kewal Singh's sidekick, an instructing attorney, Ravi Mangal Singh, he got over $2.5 million in briefs. Together, this legal Mott and Jeff duo received 55 briefs and walked away with over $6 million. Courtesy whom? Faris Al-Rawi. How can the PNM justify giving 90% of the SWRHA's legal work to Kewal Singh and Mangal Singh? So many competent lawyers in San Fernando. All the work was being funneled to these two people who were riding partners with Faris Al-Rawi. You may recall Kewal Singh had to resign from the Police Service Commission. And of course, he is the lawyer of a man named Vincent Nelson QC. You remember that name? Vincent Nelson QC. Connect the dots. This is a man who made certain allegations. This is a man, they said that Faris signed a special deal, an immunity deal with Vincent to say, no action we brought against you, immunity from suit, no information about your taxing, nothing. Gave him a carte blanche immunity contract. Of course, illegally so. Again, I tell you, the fella is a dunce, so I'll keep saying that. That's what he did. So was the Southwest Regional Health Authority being used as a vehicle to reimburse Roger Kewal Singh for the cooperation with this Vincent Nelson matter? You may recall that unforgettable picture with Al-Rawi visiting Kewal Singh's home in Maribel for a birthday party. And then, as you have reminded me, then emerged a story about the Porsche Cayenne, which was never transferred from Faris to Kewal Singh. That matter is the subject of a police investigation. And since I mentioned it, I want to call in the Commissioner of Police. I had written to the Commissioner of Police. You asked me some question, you want to find some person, and the person was Faris's agent, went to the licensing office. I told you, well, go look for Faris, you'll find a lady. She was his agent. I wrote back to you, I have not heard a word. I called in you, Commissioner of Police. Why are you dragging your feet on this matter? How difficult could it possibly be to simply check the records at the licensing office to ascertain whether the vehicle was indeed transferred? How difficult can that be? We had done all the checks, and it was never registered. The change was never registered in the licensing office. So what is the problem? What is keeping back this investigation? You know, with the greatest respect, Commissioner of Police, if you cannot conduct such a simple investigation, how do you expect the public to have any confidence in your ability to solve the spiraling murders and robberies plaguing our country? A simple investigation. Check the records would not lie. Unless in that time that has passed, somebody has doctored the records up at the licensing office. All of that is possible. I call on Mr. McDonald Jacob to tell the nation why the police service is moving like Alice in Wonderland when it comes to investigating the PNM. Can you not use some of the $35 million that Rowley gave you all to investigate the UNC? Why don't you investigate Arawi and Kewal Singh and the matter of this car transfer? Why? I come back now to the RHA shenanigans and the legal fees. There was a lawyer on that RHA, Southwest. His name is Rennie Gosain. I am advised that lawyers from Southwest Regional Health Authority, legal department, raised concerns and objected to these two lawyers, Kewal Singh and Mangal Singh, getting so many briefs and the amount of fees that were being paid. And you know what was the response? They said Kewal Singh had a special relationship with Al-Rari and that no one must question Kewal Singh's invoices or how much legal work was going to him and his instructing lawyer, Ravi Mangal Singh. So they had a deal. They asked no questions. The legal department was not the lone voice raising these concerns. Many other people protested, but Kewal Singh and Mangal Singh were sacred cows. There was a lawyer, as I said, his name was Rennie Gosain, on the board of directors for the Southwest. Tonight I want to ask Arawi to tell the country why Mr. Gosain's appointment as a director was not renewed by the PNM. Why? Tell us why. Did it have anything to do with the fact that they were objecting to Kewal Singh and Mangal Singh getting all the work they're getting and taking in millions in legal fees? Tell us why you did not renew Mr. Gosain's contract. And then let us come to WASA's chairman, Ravi Nanga. What about the chairman of WASA, Mr. Ravi Nanga, who pocketed $4.8 million? So in addition to drawing WASA chairman salaries, poor people can't get water in their taps to cook, to drink, to bathe. Mr. Nanga gets $1 million briefs from the RHAs, courtesy Faris Al-Rawi. And then there's Rory's lawyer, Justin Phelps. We see how they connect the dots. You see how it unfolds. We always say what happens in darkness will come to light. Rowley's lawyer, Justin Phelps. Even more scandalous is Dr. Rowley's personal attorney, Justin Phelps. He received almost $4 million for just 13 briefs. That must be some kind of record. $4 million. He's most famous for assaulting a lady, I think. I think most of you might remember him for that. That's what I remember his name in the newspapers about, Justin Phelps. And I want to say something to the one tear, the crying minister we have, Minister of Health, Dayal Singh. I want to tell Terence Dayal Singh, we do not accept your bogus excuse that your ministry is not to blame for this fiasco. When the FIA was filed and they responded and sent the information, I read some of it to you. This is what Dayal Singh's ministry wrote back. He said, line ministries are not required, nor is it good practice to micromanage the affairs of the various public authorities which fall within their remit. In other words, he washed his hand. It wasn't Minister of Health, but whom? He said it's the RHA, but we now know that it was Faris giving the instructions. It is absurd to suggest you had no role to play, Minister Dayal Singh, because Rawi was the one who was responsible for selecting these lawyers. You turned a blind eye to what was going on, Terence. You buried your head in the PNM quicksand, and you allowed PNM lawyers to profit out of misery and misfortune of the poor people who were victims of medical negligence. While poor people cannot get a bed, they can't get basic medicine in the hospital, you allowed PNM lawyers to pocket over $37 million. Shame on you, Terence. Tonight I ask you, how come you don't shed a tear for these poor people that the RHA lawyers fighting down in court and earning millions when the carnival costs more than the funeral? That is what is happening under your watch. Healthcare in this country, as Dr. Bodas told us, has been a disaster under the PNM and Dayal Singh. They are more concerned about fattening the pockets of friends and family than ensuring that the hospital has proper equipment, beds, and medicine. I say, shame on you, shame on all of you. So that is a matter, I think, with more to come, because we filed in the Parliament questions for each ministry to say what the fees were in terms of legal fees and who were the lawyers. Their response was, as I told you, is they have to get the consent of the lawyers. That is taxpayers' money. You have a duty for public accountability. So they filed their response to the Parliament and said, okay, we have a checklist. This is going to take how long? for all these lawyers over the 5 years, for all the state enterprises, for all the ministries hiring lawyers. So you think you can get away with it. You will not. We will come at you again. We will use the Freedom of Information Act. For you must answer those questions at that time. So you're not going to escape. And I must congratulate a man by the name of Ramesh Lawrence Maharaja, former Attorney General. He was adamant in drafting. I was in legal affairs at the time. And I know very much that he worked really hard on drafting the Freedom of Information Act, which now allows us to utilize that law to get information of the goings-on of government. So my friends, what should I talk about? Food prices. I'm coming here tonight and I have my radio on and listening to the news. And I hear people crying about the price of egg will go up because animal feed will go up. But don't be fooled, it's not egg alone. Taka, not eggs alone. Why do you only concentrate on the eggs on the news? All poultry will go up, chickens and so on. All meats will go up, because once you're using animal food, what's going to happen? The price has gone up, and they're not saying this is the only increase, it's going to go up. So food prices, in addition to what our colleague Russian told us, we are really going to see very, very high prices coming with respect to poultry, meats, and so on, and of course the eggs. And they said it's like about 6% increase on the feed. And one farmer is saying that is quite a lot. It's going to bring up maybe $2 more on each dozen eggs. But they didn't talk, as I say, about the poultry and the meats. And whilst that is happening, with all these prices rising, all the jobs being lost, they want to introduce property taxes. They want to talk about local government reform, fooling people. But that local government reform they're talking about is for them to get their hands on your property tax. So don't get fooled. We will continue to fight them. At the same time, people in this country are living on 2013 salaries. So they're now talking about they want to negotiate and CPO negotiate. And after 7 years, they have not settled one wage negotiation. I am proud when we were in office, we settled in that 5-year period 130 wage negotiations, 130. Out of those 130, 34 wage negotiations were left outstanding by the PNM. So from their time before, that they had not settled, we settled 130 about, and 34 was from their time. So we found a way to do it. We didn't complain. We didn't blame Ukraine and blame pandemic and blame Kamla and blame the economists and blame everybody. Blame Guyana maybe even. This whole blame game, every time they speak is blame. But never once will they tell us what policies, what plans they have to grow our economy, to create the jobs for our people. Nothing except buff, blame, left, right, and center. That's not the way. And that is why I'm telling you, UNC people, get ready. There will be an election coming soon. And so we must mobilize. We must be ready. Keep your T-shirts. Be ready. Ready for them. We must get them legally out of office, politically and legally out of office. Rowley and his whole bunch of incompetents, they must go. Rowley must go. So UNC people, don't lose hope. Keep strong. Your time is coming again. Last week I read from you a poem I told you I'd studied in high school and so on, The Second Coming. And I read the lines from William Butler Yeats, turning and turning the ever-widening gyre, the falcon cannot whatever the falcon. But the important line was, things fall apart, the center cannot hold. And that is what is happening in Trinidad. But I omitted to tell you that the name of the poem is The Second Coming. And therefore there will be a second coming of the UNC in government. Then we look at the incompetence dealing with crime and criminality in this country. Minister Hines failed in every ministry they ever put him. I don't know what he's still doing there. He has failed in everything. Every ministry. Monday morning he said they move him from there, they put him now. And look at which ministry. Such a crucial ministry as national security. On this watch every day, murders, robberies, home invasions. increasing. We have become numb to these horrendous crimes, and that in itself is a very worrying sign of where we are heading under this Gestapo PNM. So what was Heinz's response? He said, criminals are now brazen and selfish, Heinz, what does that mean? They see opportunities to get more than they're entitled to. He said they're what? Brazen and selfish. I mean, yes, you have criminals. So you're happy if the criminals are not selfish. Is that what you're saying? They're selfish, Heinz? Get real, Minister Heinz. Last time you talked, what did you say? You said about it is not your job to make people feel safe. This is the Minister of National Security. He said entitled. Entitled what? What entitlements do criminals normally have, Mr. Heinz? Are they entitled to police protection whilst they carry out their criminal activities? Are they entitled to PNM support in robbing and brutalizing the people of our country? Is this why we see crime rising every time PNM is in power? Last week I showed you the graph. The statistics are there for all to see. Every time you're in power, crime rises. Why? Is it because the minister believes criminals are entitled to some share of other people's belongings? I would really like Mr. Heinz to explain what he, as minister, means by saying criminals are entitled to. Citizens are calling on the Prime Minister to take crime seriously and to give the nation a competent Minister of National Security. But that, and God face, we will not see under the PNM. That is why we have to band together. We have to unite, and we have to fight them and get them legally, politically out of office. They must go before they totally destroy our country. I close now, my friends, by saying we have to rescue this nation. We have to rescue our country from the pit this PNM has thrown us into. Together we can rebuild our nation into one that guarantees prosperity and development for all. This government is only pro-family, pro-friend, pro-financiers. Their family, friends, and financiers are the only one who get attention and assistance from them, not victims of crime, not victims of medical negligence, not workers, not small businesses, not our teachers, not our students, not stressed out families, not our healthcare workers. And therefore we must do what must be done to rebuild and restore our nation. I assure you that I will fight until my last breath to ensure our team and our nation overcomes this very dark period. Let us unite as one people and ideals of building a better TNT. I say again, the UNC will always be open to anyone who share our goals and ideals for building a better TNT. Together, we can rebuild and restore our nation. And as I close, I want to remind you, I have told you this before, half of me belongs to you. The other half I give to you. So in the end, all of me belongs to you. Let us unite and let us fight together to get rid of this wicked, incompetent government. I thank you. God bless, and go home safe.